Hi, and welcome to part 2 of this presentation on immersive healing, a mind-body model to healing cancer. And immersive healing, as I mentioned in the previous chapter, is a therapeutic model that bridges science and healing. Has one leg in the scientific field of psychoneuroimmunology and another leg in hypnotherapy. In that respect, immersive healing is a therapeutic process that is not invasive, non-toxic. It's a drugless and painless process. It is a process that has no side effect, no recovery time, and no hospital stays or prescription for that matter. And it's a process that, instead of damaging or diminishing patients' quality of life, actually increases their quality of life. And again, it's an advanced mind-body model to healing cancer. It's a model that is rooted in an immunotherapeutic approach. So let's first understand what immunotherapy is and move forward into the mechanism of this process. Immunotherapy is a therapy designed to stimulate and restore the immune system in people affected by disease through either conventional treatments and or integrative healthcare therapies. The reason I brought this quote to you is because hypnosis or hypnotherapy fall under the column of integrative health care therapies. Immersive healing stands on the following three premises, and they are the three premises of immunotherapeutic approach. Premise number one is that the body's natural immune system is designed to defend against all illnesses, cancer included. Premise number two is that harmful states of mind, primarily stress, anger, hopelessness, terror, guilt, shame, grief over deprivation, and so on, have shown to affect and suppress the immune system. And these harmful states of mind, in the language of immersive healing, constitute the subconscious illness paradigm, calling for self-mutilation. Now, keep that in mind, and we'll explore what this actually means in just a moment. But premise number three here is that if these harmful states of mind, as well as harmful subconscious programming, if they can be addressed, resolved, and cleansed, the immune response can be revived and cancer prevented or healed. Now, one story that I like to tell here is about an experiment that was done in a particular university, which I don't remember the name of the university right now, but in that experiment, students were asked to bring a sack of potato to class. Sack of potatoes. It's a heavy thing, and they brought it, dragged it into class, and then they were instructed to make a list of people that they're not willing to forgive for, or people that they're not willing to forgive or come to terms with things that have done or said to them and so forth. And the interesting thing is that for each name on that list, they had to keep a potato in the sack. And eventually, each person had a different amount of names and, of course, different amount of potatoes. The point of the experiment was to allow students to carry these sack of potatoes everywhere and anywhere and at all times. While in shower, while in bed, while they're eating, while they're studying, they had to carry this sack of potato on them. And it became clear to these students very quickly, actually, that it takes much more energy to hold a grudge, to keep resentment going, than to actually heal that moment and forgive. The point of the story that I want to make here in the context of things that weigh heavy on us, this sack of potato weighed heavy on the physical body as much as these mental states of minds and emotions weigh heavy on the immune system and suppress its function. So I want you to think about it next time you feel unwilling to forgive or resolve some grudge or some level of resentment that you're holding on to. Just keep that story in mind. The image in front of you is just a demonstration of where immersive healing fits within the spectrum of healing. And the column on the left represent the type of practices that aim to resolve or heal the root cause of the condition, the physical condition, in this respect, illness and cancer. And the left column under medicine is all these practices that fall under the definition of illness management. They address the symptom, they address the end result, but do not aim to heal the root cause. And when we talk about general medicine and body science that fall under medicine in general, we know that they're all about managing symptom, and the treatment aim to improve the symptom or eliminate the symptom, numb the symptom, cut it out, burn it out, poison it. And we know that this is one approach. Certainly has its place and very appropriate, but we also know that it does not deal with the root cause, and then the likelihood of a reoccurrence is much greater. We know that psychology and psychiatry fall very much in that realm, though as we go along you will see that they deal with those events in our lives that have compounded or reinforced the message that is buried within the moment of origin, the moment, the seed planting of the illness. And we call these compounding events subsequent sensitizing events. And we call the original moment, the moment of planting the seed, we call it the initial sensitizing event. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I wanted to lay out different practices and where immersive healing belong, because it's important to understand that in order for us to reach that place where message is received, the purpose of illness understood, the message is healed, heard, cleansed, and the body can once again live and restore balance, we have to address the root cause. We have to find the underlying message that the body or the subconscious mind in this respect is trying to send us. And if we just begin from practiced faith, a lot of people, by the sheer power of their belief, are able to heal all sorts of conditions. And I have great respect for practiced faith, although it is not a stable, systematic process. It is a very powerful process. Because, and the reason is because the pivotal understanding in the mind-body healing or mind-body medicine is that you must actually believe enough in the possibility of healing to tell yourself so with conviction. And this is important because once you are able to truly believe in the possibility of healing, you activate inner or innate resources, hence the power of placebo, the power of spontaneous remission. And those are resources that exist within the physical body. Medicine does not know as of yet how to activate them, how to harness their power, even though 30% of all medicine that is known to work 30% of it is known to work because of the placebo effect. So practice faith, very important. Then we move further down to direct suggestion and immersive healing. They will go under the one umbrella called hypnotherapy. Though direct suggestion is a lighter methodology within the hypnosis practice, where immersive healing is a more advanced protocol, more advanced practice. Nevertheless, direct suggestion is powerful enough to activate or harness the placebo effect, or the power of the mind to heal itself. And immersive healing, as a therapeutic process, use the regression to cause, or the hypnotic protocol of regression to cause, as a therapeutic vehicle for healing. So immersive healing is this name that I've given the combination of science and healing. The scientific part of it is PNI, while the hypnotherapeutic part of it is regression to cause. That's the vehicle that allows us to regress back in time to that original moment where the seed planting of illness was actually planted. And we'll talk about that in just a second. And then we have spontaneous remission. Despite of what medical understand or do not understand, people are able to heal themselves, even of dire conditions. And they do so by self-correcting their experience, the type of or the quality of information they hold in their mind, and they're able to do so on their own account without medical intervention. Though from a medical perspective, it's considered a miracle, at least a visible miracle. And then further down we have natural healing. Well, this takes place all the time. We all have, as it seems, cancer cells in our body at all time, but the immune system, when functioning on its optimum state, is taking care of them day in and day out. Cells are born, cells die, and the immune system regulates what goes on in our body all the time. And that is a very appropriate phenomenon that, again, science may not be able to account for, at least not from a medicine perspective. We're not yet sure how that happens. Nevertheless, it does. So just wanted to give you an understanding of where immersive healing stands between all these other practices. But then we come to the question, and it's a common question that I get a lot in my office: where does healing take place? The human mind is a mechanism whose parts are split mostly between two agencies, the conscious and the subconscious mind. But just to backtrack for a minute, I want you to think of the body. Our body is considered an integrated system, a system of psychological and physiological processes. When you affect one part of the system, the entire system is affected. And we know that to be a fact. And again, PNI, the study of psychoneuroimmunology, have provided us and was able to actually map how these biological processes take place by the sheer power of thoughts and mental images. And it's quite a fascinating explanation, but not very relevant to allowing immersive healing to do its job. Much like we don't have to understand how the engine of a car works in order to drive the car. So let's just keep it as simple as we can so that we can move forward. Where does healing take place? Well, the subconscious mind is the level at which all running programs of individual nature are accessible for recall and review. I want you to think of the subconscious mind as if it was a vast library of information. It's a wonderful agency within the mind, and in a moment you will see exactly how that model, the mind model, the whole mind model, explain the conscious and the subconscious mind, their job descriptions and so forth. But for the time being, I want you to just think on if you can imagine an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is above the water, while the great mass of the iceberg actually lay beneath the surface. And the conscious mind is very much the tip of the iceberg, while the subconscious mind can be likened to that great mass beneath the surface. And it's a vast library of information, everything that ever happened to us, and we perceive via our five senses: touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing. Everything that we perceived by our senses was recorded and is very much alive within us. Very much alive, ready to be recalled and reviewed, and of course, edit. And you can think about this great amount of information every single moment in our life. If you think about a library and a long shelf of books, you can imagine that there's books for every day in your life, or every month of your life, or every year of your life. And it doesn't really matter to the subconscious mind whether the book on the left was written 50 years ago and the book on the right was written just yesterday. The beauty of the subconscious mind, one of the powerful traits of the subconscious mind, is that it is a goal-achieving agency. And as we work within the mind model, we will understand why this goal-achieving capacity is so important. Now, this is a scheme that kind of explains the mind model, and it's not my original scheme, it's not my original drawing. This drawing was handed down by one Gerald Kine, who is a noted hypnotherapist down from Florida, from the Omni Hypnosis Center. And this is his model, then later adopted by Steve Parkhill, who is also a a noted hypnotherapist, actually the one whom I consider to be the most influential and the greatest contributor to bringing hypnosis into the fight against cancer. And to both of them deserve the gratitude and the recognition. Now let's get back to the mind model. We see the outer ring, which represents the conscious mind, and we understand that the conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, is the smaller part of the mind, considered to about 10% of the mind, where the subconscious mind is really the biggest part, the 90% of the mind. So the conscious mind is like a guard around the subconscious mind. And the reason the subconscious mind needs a guard is because, as powerful as it is, it has one trait that makes it very vulnerable. The subconscious mind is literal. In that respect, it doesn't really matter to the subconscious mind whether the quality of information you put in it is good and valuable or harmful and damaging. Whichever information, whichever type of information, ideas, thoughts, concepts, mental images you hold in your subconscious mind, and now remember, it's a goal-achieving agency, it will manifest. It will work to manifest in your life. It's very much like Aladdin lamp. And we all know the story of Aladdin and the lamp, and how you need to actually learn how to rub the lamp properly for the genie to come out. And the subconscious mind is really that genie. And I believe there's a real correlation between the story and people's understanding of the subconscious mind. But to stay within the context of what we do here today, the subconscious mind has the power to manifest everything in our life. And if you tell it to manifest one thing, it will go at it. If you tell it another, it will go at it. It doesn't really judge or evaluate the quality of information you put in it. And that's why it needs a guard. And the conscious mind is that guard. And if you look right here to the right, with the cursor here, we're talking about the critical factor. And this critiquing capacity is what protects the subconscious mind from changing itself constantly. So when we came into this world, this was clear. There was nothing here, so to speak, in terms of perception. And then we were told what a chair looked like, what a table looked like, what kind of a sound does a cow make, and so forth. And these ideas formed perception. And as we go along, in a moment you will see that suggestions turn into beliefs, turn into attitude, turn into behavior. And on an external level, success or failure. From an internal level, suggestions turn to beliefs, turn to subconscious paradigms, which affect the internal environment within the body and define health or sickness. But let's just go backward to the mind model. This God, the conscious mind, is defined as a short-term agency. It's where short-term memory is. It's where willpower is. And we know that willpower is a short-term agency because we all made New Year's resolutions, and just a few weeks after we made them, we know that they dissolved, they fizzled out. We did not uphold them because willpower is designed to ignite a process but not to run it through or see it through. And if we have to characterize the conscious mind, it will be analytical and rational. It will be a critiquing and reasoning and judging kind of a person, where the subconscious mind is a more emotional type of person. It's a habitual person, and as I mentioned, it's literal, and it's a goal-achieving person. In other words, it's a character who will be influenced by means that are more emotions. And that's why the relationship between those who were responsible for our upbringing and perception is so powerful, because there's an emotional connection. And if your parents have taught you what sound does a cat make, no force in the world will change that, because that's what you know is true. That's what is true for you. And if you want to, just for the sake of practice, experience for yourself the critiquing power of the conscious mind, I want you to look yourself in the mirror, and I am telling now that your hair is purple. For the most part, it will not be purple. If it is, then my suggestion, as you will see up here, my suggestion will just penetrate easily because it will just reinforce perception already existing here in the subconscious mind. But if your hair is not purple, then your conscious mind has taken a snapshot of my suggestion and compared it with perception of what purple is. Perception resides in the subconscious mind. If it doesn't fit, it will simply reject it. And that's the critical factor. So easy to experience it. And because it's designed this way, it protects the information we hold in the subconscious mind. And I want to point out that that's why we need hypnosis. And I want to point out that the functioning purpose of hypnotherapy is to numb out, to eliminate, to dissolve, to bypass the critical faculty. And it's to open the door to that part of the mind which governs all bodily function for the purpose of healing. In other words, hypnosis is our key in the door, the one key that opens the subconscious mind. You can have many keys in your therapeutic chain, but if none of them work, then they're not very valuable to you. Hypnosis, the functioning purpose of hypnosis is to bypass the critical factor of the conscious mind. Hypnosis in that respect is a state of focused attention, a state of heightened belief. And the clinical definition of hypnosis is the bypass of the critical factor of the conscious mind and the establishment of acceptable selective thinking. When you get this definition, you understand that it is just an instrument that allows us to bypass the critiquing factor of the conscious mind so that we can get into the vast library of information where perception is within the subconscious mind, where all the ideas about the world and who we are is within these books on the shelf in the subconscious mind, so that we can recall them, review them, and edit them in an appropriate way, a way that is appropriate for who we are today rather than who we used to be as we grew up. Once again, the subconscious mind is that part of the mind that governs all bodily function, including immune function. And the accumulation of ideas within the subconscious mind for us and against us will eventually tip the paradigm, the subconscious paradigm, toward either illness or health. If we have been given a lot of good suggestions about ourselves and our self-esteem is high and our confidence level is high, we're just going to be wonderfully self-assured. And very often this manifests as a paradigm or subconscious abundance paradigm, where one can just shoot for the stars and everything that one will do will bring success and a level of fulfillment that make us who we are, happy, successful, healthy, and the like. That is the subconscious abundance paradigm. Where most of us spend our life is in a subconscious limiting paradigm. And the limiting paradigm is where most of us spend our time, because we take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. We're able to achieve certain things, but not so much others. And it's kind of a roller coaster, up and down. And our life story very much is constantly changing up and down. There's no particular direction. We may not fully go after what we dream and value and so forth. So this is the limitation paradigm. And then we have the self-destructing paradigm or subconscious self-mutilation paradigm, illness paradigm in that respect, which means that our subconscious mind will create environments within the physical body that will allow disease, certainly disease such as cancer, to manifest. And cancer is autoimmune disease where basically the body turns on itself, an amazing manifestation of a self-mutilation paradigm. But let's continue just a little bit forward and understand how the conditioning process takes place so that we'll understand how we are forming subconscious paradigms. Because if they are the root cause to our conditions, we want to make sure we understand how we form them. And again, when we came into this world, how our subconscious mind was, let's call it empty, so to speak, a clean slate. And then suggestions began to flow into our mind. And these suggestions, reinforced, repeated over time, created beliefs about who we are, our role in the world, whether we are worthy of something or not, health, success, or abundance or not. And on the external level, in other words, the outer experience of our life, suggestions have formed beliefs. If the suggestions that we were given were limiting and harmful, our beliefs will be limiting and harmful. And therefore our attitude will be negative and harmful, and that will be reflected in the way that we behave. And certainly a negative attitude leads to negative behavior. This will lead to failure. If, on the contrary, the suggestions that we were given were good, our beliefs about ourselves will be good and supporting and comforting and self-assuring. Our attitude will be strong. We will know that there's no barrier or no limit to what we can do, and that will be reflected by our behavior. We all know these people who just pursue their dream. They just go after it and they achieve what they set out to achieve. These people practice abundance paradigm, and they certainly enjoy success. For those who do not have success in their life, failure could be, or somewhere in between, could be the result. If that is the case, I want you to understand it's simply because something in your belief system about success and failure is not aligned. And it's very important that we'll then have the right method, the right approach, the right tool with which we can change our beliefs. And immersive healing is just one method, but a very practical method to do so, because it takes a short period of time to do so. It's right to the point. It's like having a mental surgery, so to speak. Now let's examine what happened with suggestions on the internal level within us. Our suggestions, if harmful and negative, form negative beliefs, harmful beliefs, which translate to subconscious self-destructing paradigm, illness paradigm, self-mutilation paradigm, which affect or manifest, are projected into the internal environment within the body and turn it from healthy to toxic. And in a toxic environment, sickness can thrive. If the quality of suggestions that we received was good and positive and healthy, our beliefs will reflect that. This will be an abundance paradigm, this will be a health paradigm, and our internal physical environment will be healthy, and that will be expressed in our health and well-being. So this is just a practical way to see the whole flow of cause and effect in one place. Because we know that for every cause there is an effect, and for every effect there is a cause. We just have to find what is what and where. This brings us back to immersive healing. This diagram that you see in front of you is a good explanation of what happens or what might happen during a session of immersive healing. When you see the point of entry, which is birth, it actually should be conception. And the moment of conception is where we begin to accumulate information. Actually, it's a little after that, but once the subconscious mind is formed, it begins to listen and tune in to the environment, whether it's the environment within the womb, whether it's the sound and sights, so to speak, not in the physical sense or the eye or vision kind of sense, but just to perceive where it is and trying to make sense of that which is around. And so it begins to collect information. It's not that the fetus can see or hear, but the mind collects information. And so we start at that point of conception, birth, and then there's a moment in time where our perception of ourselves, if we came here and the subconscious is like a clean slate, our perception of ourselves is good, because the origin of this process is in consciousness. And the quality of consciousness, again, without dwelling too much on in philosophy or spirituality, we know that what brought us into the world is an act of love. When two people decide to bring a child into the world, for the most part, it's an act of love. And we have a certain sense of that, a certain knowingness of that. So that is reflected. That is the default predisposition that we have. But then as we come into this world, we begin to get different ideas. And at a certain moment in time, one suggestion or another have made it clear to us that what we thought about ourselves isn't the absolute truth. And at that moment, our perception of ourselves as pure or healthy or worthy have changed from positive to negative. This was a moment in time, the birthing place of a particular thought process. Now, in and of itself, that process or thought process is not that powerful. It's just one thought process amongst many others that go on at the same moment in time. But if that particular thought process is now being reinforced, compounded over time, over years, it's like drops of water that fall, drops of rain that fall into the barrel. And eventually, one drop after another, the barrel will fill up and eventually will overflow. So the first drop that came into the barrel is that original moment in time, is the ISE, the initial sensitizing event. Every drop of water after that just compounded that, increased the quantity of that. And eventually, with enough subsequent sensitizing events, the barrel overflowed. And in a typical session, we ask the subconscious mind and utilize its goal-achieving capacity to take us to the first event of significance to this particular condition or feeling that we're troubled by. And it will. It may not take us to the first moment, to the initial sensitizing moment, to the ISE right away. It might take us first to subsequent sensitizing events, events that have compounded the original moment. But that's okay, because this is how we work as humans. Sometimes there is a process to get there. Now, sometimes we are able to go right from the beginning to the end, to the ISE. But this is the exception and not the rule. When I begin to work with people, I expect to meet the sensitizing or the subsequent sensitizing events, the SSEs. And so imagine that a certain pattern, thought pattern, that manifested itself in the body in the condition of illness had a moment of origin. It's like if you can pull on a sweater, get the right thread, you can undo the whole sweater. In that respect, the ISE is that very thread. And when that moment in time where perception of who we are was changed from pure and positive to defaulted or defected and broken, if we can get back into that moment, relive it, revive the experience, the emotions that were present, the sights, the smells, everything that was right about that moment, if we can revive that and kind of step into that once again, we can evaluate whether we perceive that moment correctly or not. And once again, I want you to remember that as kids, our capacity at the age of conception to 6 to understand things as they truly are is limited, because we are still developing. We're still learning about the big picture. We can't really see the big picture. So we make a decision to perceive things one way or the other. And it's likely that we made a wrong decision because the amount of information we had back then was limited. It's like watching a baseball game out of a hole in the fence. And you only see a slice of what's going on the field, and you're going to try to make sense of everything else. Well, everything else may not make sense, although you try to put the pieces together. You're going to come to the wrong decision, certainly about certain times of the game. Some of them you might get right, but not all of them. Now, the reason it's important to go to back in our mind's eye to the original moment is because if we have perceived it originally in a wrong way, and that was the birthing place for this condition we're struggling with, by changing the perception of that moment, we will dissolve that thought pattern. And that will echo and cascade through the years within our subconscious mind and the condition itself will cease to be plugged in, so to speak, to the type of energy that feeds it. My certainty that we can change perception is firm, and it's based on the notion that around every dark cloud there is a silver lining, and we know that to be a fact. You hear this statement mostly from people who survived against all odds, who've had terrible experiences that you and I might call terrible experiences in their life, including cancer, but having overcome it, survived it, they are able to look at it from a different perspective, and in hindsight realize that there was a blessing in this very difficult, very tough experience. There was a blessing, and that generate or reinforce or validate the notion that around every dark cloud there is a silver lining. And that's why I know that we can always find that silver lining, no matter how difficult, challenging, horrible, horrific the event was. There is a silver lining, and it's just a matter of our desire to focus on that. Even if it's just a tiny little dot of light, still it will be our choice whether to focus on that or on the great mass of darkness around it. By focusing on the one small dot of light, we have to come to a different decision about the meaning of that event. And to just give you an understanding of how that is done, I'm going to give you a moment or an example from a different type of work that I used to do from the weight loss world. And the reason I'm using this example because we all heard those statements before. Have you ever heard either your parents or caretaker tell you, if you finish, you better finish off your plate, the food off your plate, you better finish that because there's kids hungry in, and you can name the relevant country of the day. Now, as adults, we get it. The caretaker, the parent, was simply trying to instill appreciation for the abundance on one's food, on one's plate. But kids, if they have not traveled the world, they do not understand what it's like to live in another country. And if they have not been hungry themselves, they can't possibly understand what hunger means or what hunger feels like. And so the only conclusion that they can come to is that if I'll do what my parent is asking me, in other words, if I'll finish the food on my plate, they will be pleased. They will love me more. I will get more love. And all of us do whatever we do in life, we do either to get more love or compensate for the lack of love. And this is important to understand. And so we want to get more love. We will certainly finish the food of our plate because it pleases our parents or caretakers. And the birth of a pattern, an associated pattern between emotional gratification or satisfaction and behavior. And from this point on, we will associate finishing off the plate with pleasing our parents. And that's why so many people struggle with food and find it so hard to break this pattern, because it really is a matter of loyalty and association with a loved one. The point of the story is that if we can go back in time and bring the adult you, as who you are today, to that moment in time, to a point where you can resource and download, so to speak, your mental capacity, which is far greater than when you were at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If we can download and resource and strengthen the resolve of the child to see the big picture, if you can prepare the child to see things from a different perspective, coming through the same similar event, here in the same statement, the child will come to a different decision about the meaning of that event or that statement, and will see things from the adult perspective. In the moment this has taken place, in the moment the child is able to see things from the adult perspective, the pattern, the link, the chain between, or the association between the behavior and the reward will be broken, and no longer the child will have to finish off the plate just to please the parent. Here, the pattern will dissolve. Here, the behavior will change. So the origin of the pattern has changed. The behavior will have to change along with it. The same goes for emotions or moments in times where our perception of ourselves was formed as negative. If we can go back to these moments in times and perceive them as the adults, as who we are today, through the eyes of our greater capacities, mental, emotional, spiritual capacities, we'll be able to come to a different decision about the meaning of those moments and dissolve the throbbing call for self-destruct, for negativity, for harming ourselves, basically. Because we are feeling guilty about causing pain to someone else and feeling guilty about causing pain to ourselves as well. So the importance of getting to the ISE is by changing its quality from negative to neutral and hopefully positive. The moment we do that, as we change the polarity of that experience, we change the polarity of our physical experience. You have to begin to understand the relationship, the link, the energetic cord that is connecting the symptom and the moment of origin. When you change the moment of origin, the energetic flow of information, what Deepak Chopra called the non-physical aspects of the disease, their conversion is changing, their structure is changing. And so the expression in the physical body will change as well. This is the importance of it. And there might be several ISEs, not just one. What may be important to understand here is that the ISE is really not, it doesn't have to be an epic moment. It doesn't have to be a moment like the Big Bang. It can simply be a moment where things were said to us that were sufficiently important to the subconscious mind to the point they impressed us with negativity. And when that was constantly reinforced over time, it built into this thought process that formed belief that created a paradigm, an illness paradigm or harmful paradigm that expressed itself in the physical body. That's the very importance of it. And immersive healing is the only methodology that allows us to get into that part of the mind called the subconscious mind, where these ISEs reside. No radiation beam, no amount of chemotherapy, no surgery knife can get you there. In that respect, no amount of psychotherapy will get you there, because psychotherapy is a conscious process. And of course, no medication can go there, because medication changes the chemistry of the brain, but not your thought process. This is the importance of this diagram in front of you. And if we are talking about the differences between immersive healing and psychotherapy, well, let's first examine immersive healing. Immersive healing works within the realm of the subconscious mind. It aimed to work on the internal experience, and in that respect, deal with health and sickness. It's an experiential process where the client becomes an active participant. There is a revivification of the experience. And by reviving every aspect of that experience, you become an active participant, and you can begin to change, edit, adjust that experience in an appropriate way. And because you relive that moment, the change is immediate, happen in real time. Where psychotherapy is a conscious thought process. It's a dialogue between you and the therapist. Yes, you might get in touch with your emotions, but that does not mean that you can really make changes on a subconscious level. Mostly it's on a conscious level. And because it's on a conscious level, it deals mostly with the external experience of behavior, success and failure. It utilizes the power of the intellect to rationalize, to observe, to analyze, and so forth. And that's why it's an incubating process, a long-term process. And these are some of the major differences between immersive healing and psychotherapy. Very important to understand that they're not one of the same, and that one is aiming to do one specific thing and the other a completely different story. I want to say a few words on the placebo effect, which is a very powerful ally of ours, And the reason I want to talk about the placebo effect is because there's great confusion, and usually it comes along with a negative association. But the placebo effect is the tendency of any treatment, even an inert or ineffective one, to exhibit results simply because the recipient believes that it will work. The word believe here is extremely important because belief is the very key. If you remember that I said this, that the pivotal understanding of the mind-body healing is that you must actually believe enough in the possibility of healing to tell yourself so with conviction. If we can harness the power of belief, if we can activate the power of belief, we will activate that innate agency, capacity within the brain, within the mind, within the body to heal itself, to regulate itself, so in order to restore health and well-being. The opposite of the placebo effect is the nocebo effect. And the nocebo effect is the causation of sickness by expectation of sickness and by associated emotional states. The nocebo effect is more known like a voodoo kind of practice. But voodoo have to work in order for voodoo to work, you have to be born in this culture so that it's completely believable to you. Because most likely, if somebody want to practice voodoo on someone in the Western world, their ritual will seem ludicrous, to say the least. And so it's important that we will have the cultural understanding of it. And that's why, again, the power of belief is so incredibly important. And the reason I talk about the power of belief is because hypnosis, in many ways, is a heightened state of belief. And therefore, the intentional activation of the placebo effect. Once clients are in a state of hypnosis, remember, the subconscious mind is literal. So the literal subconscious mind will transmit imagined healing pictures you hold in your mind or in your mind's eye via the nervous system to the body, which will manifest it in compliance with your thinking. It's very important to understand this process. Immersive healing takes us to the first event of significance. And it's like cleaning the wound. It's important that before healing takes place, before our wound can heal, we have to clean the wound. We have to take all the infecting agencies, debris. We have to clean it out before we can put the balm of healing on that wound for the purpose of healing. If we do not exhaust the intensity, the emotional intensity that is buried in the IC, if we don't dissolve that, if we don't heal that, then the throbbing call for self-mutilation will just reappear. And in a wound that has not been cleaned, if you just put a band-aid on a wound that is infected, if you haven't cleaned the infection, it will get more infected. So we understand that there's a real need here to clean the wound before the healing can begin. Once again, my concluding remarks are that immersive healing is an evidence-based therapeutic process designed to heal negative subconscious paradigms, suppressing the immune response and promoting illness. This is very, very, very important. This is the very definition of immersive healing. Practiced along conventional medical treatment, its purpose is to improve treatment efficacy, and I explained in the first part exactly why that takes place. And proceeding to medical treatment, it aims to lessen the amount of treatment needed. And that's the absolute message I want you to get. Thank you so much for viewing this presentation. If you have any question, please feel free to either call me on the number you see in front of you, email me at the address you see in front of you, or visit my website for more videos and information. Thank you so much. My name is Avinoam Lerner. I appreciate and hope that you will continue to enjoy much health and well-being. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.